Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ella here to talk to you about some watch list, some of our watch list, and some of the requests that you guys have put in over the last 24 hours. So, if you are just finding out about this stream, I asked you guys if you wanted me to run a stream, like a daily stream kind of thing, just 30 minutes, and you guys seem quite interested, so I have opened a sub channel underneath the request channel over here, called episode number 1, where you guys can drop requests, just like 1 to 2 requests per person for now. And once this episode has been filmed, I will delete this channel and I will open a new one called episode number 2, where you can drop your new requests. So that's pretty much it. Let's talk about it. So Bitcoin, I am here on linear time frame for perspective. I have the 42 simple moving average. If you want this moving average, you just type SMA. You get this moving average simple. Then you go to the settings. You go to inputs and you just change 42. I think it starts with like 9. You could change it to 42 and you'll get this same thing on the weekly time frame. And you can make it it's usually pretty thin, so you can make it thicker. This works well on Bitcoin. This is a pretty solid moving average on the higher time frame, specifically on the weekly time frame for Bitcoin. For the most part, every time we tap it, fear spikes into that 20 to 30 region, and we tend to mark a bottom. Funding tends to flip negative every time we tap this level, because this is almost like a max pain level. People always get quite bearish around it for some strange reason. And you know, we bounce on it and we continue going up. You can see we saw some really nice reactions over here, and now we're kind of just chilling. Looking good. We had 2. I think those are called tweezer candles, where you get the first tap and then you get the second tap. They usually happen at bottoms or tops. For example, this here was a tweezer top, tweezer top, tweezer top, and this one here is tweezer bottom. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. The count for Bitcoin is unchanged. I'm looking at it as this 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Looks like we have gotten disconnected. Not sure. Seems okay. Just check. No, our internet is fine. I don't know why I would disconnect, but we have this 1 2 1 2, and possibly just 1 2, like this. And the next move that we would be looking for is the big one to the upside. I made this comparison with gold recently, how gold did the same thing. You just zoom into the local areas here. You know, we had the tomato top. Then you had this long downtrend on gold. Long downtrend on Bitcoin. You have a 1 2, and you create a 1 2 1 2, and then you create more 1 2s, 1 2 1 2 1 2. I believe we're here right before gold took off. So if we're gonna play out this fractal, we might make another 1 2. People will say it's over again. Maybe we'll tap that simple moving average again. and then we'll go vertical like this. And then we'll consolidate and people will see it's over. Maybe we'll tap that moving average again. And then it'll go up in a straight line. Then people are going to be lining up to buy it the same way that they're lining up to buy Bitcoin. And maybe it'll consolidate. People see it's over. We'll tap the trend line. And we'll continue like that. That's generally how I view it. I think that things are looking quite bullish right now, and we're getting ready for liftoff. You know, usually, Elliott wave theory, you get a series of 1-2s, a pullback, and then you get the wave 3, which goes straight up before you get the wave 4 consolidation and a wave 5. Well, as you can see here, we've only got this part. We're on higher time frames, so it looks larger, but that's all we got right now. We don't have this part. And that is what I think is coming. That's what I think people don't seem to understand at the moment. They think that the bull market is over because of some 4-year cycle that used to follow the business cycle. But the business cycle is starting to accelerate. It's still in the trenches, and once it starts to move up, there's going to be no stopping this thing. Money's going to be rotating into risk like you've never seen before. There'll be more money being rotated into risk than there was during this run. This 2015 to 2018 run. And all the people panic selling right now, they're going to question why they panic sold. Alright, let's take a look at the couple of requests that we got. Rune, you know my higher time frame idea. It's that we played out 5 waves down like this. This was the 5 waves down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Gonna zoom in for you and just take a peek at what the current area looks like. We're labeling this as a WXY. And we're going to be looking for a push up pretty high into the hundreds. But it's not something that's just going to happen overnight, you know? The waves are going to take time to develop. And what we can really do here is check out the waves. Let's take a look at one of these spot charts. Do they all look the same? They all seem to look the same, so I guess it doesn't even matter if we're on the spot chart. From this low, this looks like a leading diagonal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get a leading diagonal, you get a sweep of the diagonal liquidity after, and a decent reaction. That's what's most important in this range. People turn bearish because, I mean, what else are they gonna do? The coins just dropped 90% in one day, I mean, all they can do is turn bearish. Got the diagonal liquidity right there. It could get larger. You know, this could be something like this. But there's a good chance that it's concluded right here. Now you're getting ready for a push up. And what you're doing here is you're creating another potential diagonal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Potential. Which means you're going to come back down here to sweep this diagonal liquidity. About 82 cents. If you hold this low, that works greatly in your favor. If you don't, well, then maybe you're playing out something larger. But for the most part, that's a diagonal that looks pretty good in my eyes, and I think it's safe to say that seeing a move down like this would be nothing out of the ordinary, and it'd be quite healthy for this local trend. Unless, of course, this is a 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, and it just explodes up into a massive wave 3, like if there's a big catalyst, well, then that's possible. You can easily have a 3-4-5 like that. But if there's no catalyst and you just keep chopping and chopping and chopping, well, you can create another 1-2 here and you could take it from there. Just keep this as your invalidation on the local 1-2. And that should be fine. And if you break it, it doesn't mean that the bull case is invalidated. It just means that the larger bull case is at play. You're just treating this as a larger wave 2. That's all. But yeah, I think the probability is quite high for this to be a 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, and you just go parabolic, because there's a lot of conferences and stuff this week that are talking about crypto, so it's possible. Aerodrome, I already shared my primary projection on aerodrome. You know, I said this drop could be it could have been the end of wave 4, it could have been the end of wave 2. You know, we were looking at this as something like this. This current chart, it doesn't display the wick, so I'll have to draw it on. But that's what the wick looked like. And that right there was a completed corrective move. Now, the only thing that you need to really... The only thing you really want for aero to do, you don't really want it to go back down there. It had a really, really powerful reaction. It got completely bought up, scooped up. Probably one of the largest buys that we've seen. And they scooped up all of this. All these stops were taken, all the leverage was liquidated, everything was completely wiped out. Someone stole all that supply. Well, This can easily be a 1-2. And what you would like to see here is upward chop. You want to see higher highs, higher lows. Before you continue to go up. I already shared my upside targets on aerodrome. I do think that it can go into the hundreds, and I just think it's going to take some time. It could take like a year to go to those much higher valuations, a year or two. But locally speaking, it looks really nice. You have a clean looking impulse up. The only thing I would say is maybe that's a flat. Let me see what that looks like on the other charts. Nah. I was gonna say maybe that's a flat and you're gonna sweep the low one more time, but you gotta take the wick into consideration. You know, it's part of the chart, and it came up in 5 waves, and you took the diagonal liquidity, and now you're coming up in another 5 waves. So, in my opinion, you're building a base. You're looking to start expanding up, one way or another. I think this is just gonna be uphill from here, and you know, the same way after the COVID crash, the coins kind of, you know, they fell and then they recovered and then they chopped sideways for a while. They chopped sideways, and then one day they just took off and they just didn't stop for a whole year. I think that's what's going to happen in the market over the next year, in the altcoin market, in the crypto market. I think that we're going to be chopping and chopping, creating these 1-2s here before going much higher. What? This thing didn't see liquidation? I find that suspicious. Well, based on the structure that I see here, it looks like someone stole the supply and they refused to participate in the drop. Which to me, it just says that this drop is most likely going to happen still down to these levels for this particular project. Because if you just look at it very objectively, it came down in 5 waves just like the rest of the market. Just because someone owns all of the supply doesn't make it like any better. In my opinion, there's a high probability that it's going to sweep this wick right here at whatever price that is. It might chop around for a while. It might go 1-2, 1-2. But one day, I think it's just going to see that for whatever reason. And that's going to be your completed correction. ABC. If you don't complete this correction, you're always going to be wondering, you know, why didn't it complete the correction? Maybe this gets larger. Maybe this here was a W, X, A, B, C. Maybe it wants one more push to create a W, X, Y before it goes down there. Maybe that's how it's going to play out. But I don't think that this one is gonna take. I don't think this one's gonna take the high. And if it does, then I'm wrong about that. If it takes the highs, then it can run. It can absolutely run. But for what it's worth, I do not think this one is gonna take the highs. It looks like a nice diagonal from the lows. Though one could argue and say this here could be a flat or even a running triangle. That could be a bear flag and you could be getting the drop next. I would be careful with this one. That's all that I'll say. Something feels off about it. And while yeah, it's in a really prominent Wyckoff accumulation pattern, and this could be the backup last point of supply. And this here could have been the sign of strength. It's very shady looking. Very shady looking. So I do think it could potentially make one more push up. But I don't think that push is gonna last. I'll give you an estimated upside target. I think 2.5 cents is fair value or something like that. And but I do think that it's just gonna be a double zigzag. That's a really hardcore wave right there. Before it goes down to 0. Could also just go there one of these days. Just the same way that the coin just one day just woke up and just decided to just go down. You could do that. There's probably a whole series of projects like this that haven't dropped, and they could have just smacked half the market or like 3/4 of the market, and now people could be buying into projects like this thinking they're safe, and they're just gonna rug pull it. I'll be careful with it. Dogecoin looks you know what? Dogecoin looks good. Here's why Dogecoin looks good. Dogecoin, unlike the other projects from the 2021 highs, Dogecoin actually came down in what appeared to be a 3-wave move. Call it an ABC or a WXY. That's not really important to me. What's more important to me is that it came down in 3 waves, and since then it's been holding structure. To me, this looks like a diagonal. Looks like a diagonal. And then you got this ABC. That looks really nice, in my opinion. you could be setting up for a pretty large move up. I would be skeptical and just say that that move up could just be an ABC like this. To play out like a larger three-wave move of this kind of magnitude in like the years ahead. But it absolutely could be a 1-2 as well. This could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But nonetheless, I think Dogecoin looks good for a pushback to the all-time highs. My primary is this one, but if it puts in 5 instead of 3, that's cool too. Tau. You know, Tau looks good. Tau looks alright. You got 5 waves. 5 waves up. I shared this account with you guys recently. A, B, C, D, E. We actually predicted that drop on Tau. And now, the question is this a 1-2? 1-2, and it's just gonna explode? Or something a little bit more conservative? Maybe this here was another 1-2. This was a 3. This whole thing could have been wave 4, and you could just be looking for one more leg up. You know, in my opinion, that seems more probable rather than the whole fucking thing being a wave 2. I think going to about $1,500 is fair. Tau came up in 5 waves. Maybe you see a drop like this to play out a 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kind of like that. Maybe it goes higher. In fact, if it goes higher, maybe this whole thing is indeed a 1-2, and it could go to like 25 or 30 or 50k. But conservatively speaking, a 3x for a project of this size seems kind of fair, in my opinion. And if you hold a large portion of Tau that you were able to pick up at any of these lows, well, consider letting it go up here at 1500, because that's a pretty good flip. That's like a 10 to 15x. You know, it's funny because back when fartcoin was around here, I was saying we're gonna come to a moment in the near future where the fartcoin holders are gonna realize who actually holds fartcoin, and it's gonna drop and sweep this low. But they didn't seem to realize who holds it, and the person who holds it is the insiders. They hold all of it, and they played the whole market. This, what you see here, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is not the full history. Fartcoin looks more like this. What you see here in this box is probably like 5% of the history. this thing is still floating in space, but let's play devil's advocate. It did come up in 5 waves, and it did come down in 3 waves, which means that fartcoin is likely gonna stick around for a while longer. This one did not come up in 5 waves. It saw truncation. Yes, a truncation is okay. What can I say about your fartcoin? There's not much I can say about the fartcoin. Genuinely. Usually, when you see 3 waves down in a huge wick like that, you're gonna get absorbed and you're gonna come back up. At least to tap the all-time highs one more time. There's a possibility that instead what you create is a move like this, where you go A, B, C. You do tap the highs, or you get close to it, and then you get this slam down. This kind of actually reminds me of the doge trade. Similar vibe. Come up to the high, tap it, and go back to 0. And the final request was from one of our members. He asked, we all hold velo. What if velo doesn't run? What if velo just goes to 0? And that's the kind of questions that I love to hear, because that means that we're really close to the low. When people start thinking that projects are going to go to 0, it just simply means that we're close to the low. Velo came up in 5 waves from the lows, came down in 3 waves, and it came up in 5 waves again here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we play out some kind of correction here. Maybe like this. And then we start running. The event that's coming up next month in November 7th or something, they're gonna announce something. They're gonna announce something that I think is gonna change the trajectory of velo for a long time. I think it's gonna put it on the radar of a lot of people who didn't know what velo was prior to that announcement. This actually isn't 5 waves up. At least not like that. Wave 5 is longer than wave 3 in this instance. So instead, I'm just gonna default and say this here is a bullish nest. And we're actually getting ready to lift off sooner than I thought. Maybe in the next couple of hours. What we're gonna do is find some support. And it's gonna go. And I think this one is gonna take time to unravel. I think this uptrend is gonna start, and it's gonna be fighting a lot of resistance that took place. I mean, that was created over the last year, and I think it's gonna be it's going to be a strong push. I think we can get back up to where it fell from. I'm still looking at around the 5 cent range as a massive point of interest. I'm genuinely curious to see what will happen once we tap that area. And based on that reaction, we'll be able to further assess how high velo is going to go. But for what it's worth, I think we're going to go back up to that 5 cent region by the end of this month easily. And then if you're really, genuinely scared, well, consider exiting your position for break even and walking away and just thinking the velo's going to go to zero. But just keep in mind, I think that this is a really powerful project. I think they have a really revolutionary technology in the crypto space, and they have basically taken over all of the projects by revenue. Even Ethereum and Hyperliquid and everyone, Aerodrome has taken over all of the revenues. And I think that if Velo and Aero merge, like some people are suggesting, into Dromos, well then I think that this thing is going to teleport to $1 billion valuation within a month of the merge, and that would put Velo into the dollar region, give or take. So that is my take on Velodrome. I think that Velodrome is going to run. I do not think it's going to go to zero. But I can understand why you would think that it could go to zero. Because, well, it fell pretty hard. And it was a spooky drop. But I think that this wave is going to develop into the months ahead, and once it fully develops, I think it's going to explode to ridiculous valuations, and you're going to be looking back at these times wondering why you didn't buy more. So, that being said, hopefully enjoyed this first episode, and if you have any requests for the second episode, let me know. I will be running the episodes every other week. I'm gonna run the episode every day this week, and then the following week I will take a week off from the videos, and we'll do that every other week, so long as it makes sense to do so. So hopefully enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a beautiful week. Cheers.